Reggie, welcome back. If you could just give your thoughts on being back in with the national team and looking forward to the match tomorrow night against Panama.
Yeah, obviously I'm very excited to get back in the national team pool. It's been definitely a long time off since January, and the player pool has evolved immensely over the course of the past 8 months. And so getting all these guys back together, some have never made their caps. Obviously, we had a few the other night. It's super exciting because this pool is so diverse now and so talented. Obviously, playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world, it's exciting. And now we're looking forward to, obviously, the challenge we face tomorrow, firstly, and then obviously next year with so many things coming with Olympics, with Gold Cup, with World Cup qualifying. It's going to be an exciting year.
Thank you, Reggie. And our first question will come from Jeff Carlisle from ESPN FC.
Hey, Reggie, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Yeah, just what have your first months with the Boavista been like? How have you settled into that team, and in what ways has it challenged you maybe right away in a way that it was maybe different than what was going on in Dallas?
Yeah, I always say this because I get asked this question a lot. The competition I face in the Portuguese league is some of the hardest competition I faced since God knows when. And that's no slight to MLS. The level is just so much higher. And I know it's, outside of the top 5 leagues, but playing in that league has challenged me so much, and it's exactly what I wanted from this move. It's forcing me to be better, to become a better player, to find new ways to adapt, to raise my game, and that's ultimately what I want as a footballer, to become the best I can be. And Boavista has really provided that platform and foundation for me to ascend my game to the next level.
Thanks. Next we'll go to Dylan Butler from MLSsoccer.com.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, Reggie. Just kind of following up off your opening statement, just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on what you've seen from the progress of this team and just sort of the feel, right? Like you mentioned, a lot of new faces, a lot of different guys, a young team. What's the feel like in camp?
Yeah, everyone's obviously super excited to see each other again, but it's almost a different environment now. Obviously, I made the transition to Europe, and now the European lifestyle is so much different. All these young players playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world. It's got an inner sense of competition now. You're fighting for bigger things. You're not just fighting for a spot on the pole. You're fighting for the guy next to you and against the guy next to you. There's a lot of inner circle battles going on right now, and that's ultimately what is making this team great in the process, because that is what's going to push this team to the next level.
Next we'll go to Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Yeah, Reggie, I want to go back to what you were saying just in kind of being challenged since you went to Portugal. I know that's what you wanted. With considering how much of a challenge you've seen there, has it changed your perspective or the advice you're giving to guys back home in MLS that maybe it's even more valuable than you realize to make the jump from MLS to Europe, and that there is kind of a whole new level that maybe you got these guys like Paxton can take their game if they do make those moves?
Yeah, I've always said this. I've always wanted to play in Europe, and that's been my goal for the longest time. I've been trying to get out for a while, and I've always given this advice to the young guys, to the upcoming guys, Paxton, Jesus, Tanner, Brian, all those guys coming up within the FC Dallas ranks and ultimately the MLS ranks. Is there's so much to accomplish in Europe, especially for Americans. It's so amazing to see the level of competition over here. It's just a completely different level that I can't explain in words. You just have to experience it, and ultimately it's just going to raise your game as a player. It's going to make you want to be the best. This European lifestyle is completely different than what MLS offers, and again, that's no slight to MLS. I just think that for all these young guys coming up, that should be your goal, to ultimately help not only yourself but the national team and everything going forward.
Next we go to Doug McIntyre from Yahoo.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, Reggie. Thanks for doing this. You're a veteran on this team now, believe it or not, by your young age, by your experience at the Gold Cup. I wanted to ask about the Be the Change message that you guys put together, and how much were you a part of that? I mean, were you part of the leadership group when discussing through those things, given how young this roster is? Thank you.
I actually wasn't part of the leadership group that made the decision on be the change message. That was involved with Zach Steffen and Weston McKinney. And unfortunately, I missed those meetings, so I wasn't able to be a part of it. But we had discussions about it outside of those meetings. Zach and Weston and I all talked about the things we could do to make a change. Zach and Weston obviously had great ideas, as you saw the other night. We talked about linking arms for the national anthem and the jacket statements. I think it's powerful because, again, that stuff sparks conversation, which is, again, what is going to create this unity. It's what's going to create change. This chance for education with conversation. So I think, ultimately that was a great opportunity to kind of get our message out there and what this team stands for.
Next will be Kevin Baxter from the LA Times.
Hey, Reggie, thanks for doing this.
Oh, no worries. I love doing this.
Oh, really? Let's do it again tomorrow. I think you kind of milked this question for all the answers we're going to get, but I'm going to try one more time because it was so interesting, your answers to Jeff and Paul about moving to Europe. And you said, as you mentioned, you're not one of the top 5 leagues, but you said it's the toughest competition you've ever faced. Are we going to see the fruit of that from 21 players now in Europe, all challenging themselves like you, all at a young age? People have talked about how this is the start of something big. Are you seeing that? And can you just explain a little bit about what that means to go out and challenge yourself with these players every day, how it makes you better? Thanks.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I wanted to obviously put out there is the chance of challenging yourself, because in MLS you can get so comfortable at times. You can almost create a bubble of comfort around yourself, and being with family, being able to see all your friends at all times, playing a competition that isn't nearly as challenging as the rest of the world, make plenty of money and just be comfortable. It's so easy to just stay where you are and be satisfied. And I think that's what the great players and the elites do. They go to Europe to challenge themselves. And that's not saying you can't be successful in MLS and still play in a World Cup. Of course you can. But I think just for this player pool, the best thing, and the upcoming player pool, the best thing for us to do is to go to Europe and challenge ourselves and get a taste of what real football is like. Because I think that's ultimately going to create so much challenge and so much unity within the team that everyone can experience this lifestyle and challenge each other for spots. I think that's what makes teams great. And I feel like you guys just think I'm bashing on MLS, but I promise you that's not what I'm doing. I think it's just a higher level in Europe, and I think that's going to make everyone the greatest they can be, which will ultimately make our chances of entering a World Cup and winning a World Cup the best it can be. And I think that's the best statement I can give.
Next we go to Ron Blum from the Associated Press.
Hi, Reggie. Next year, what do you think will be the challenges of preparing yourself mentally and physically for switching time zones, switching weather, going across the ocean for 3 qualifiers, playing them, and then heading back to your club?
One of the things Greg has really put into this team is the phrase, "It just doesn't matter," because it doesn't. Our goal is to qualify for the World Cup. Our goal is to win trophies. That's the biggest efforts we have put forward. And, at the end of the day, no matter how tired we are, how sore, how frustrated we are with where we are, we just have to go. We just have to do it. It just doesn't matter in the end, because our anchors and our foundations are what bring us and get us closer to those goals. This BDR thing you hear from the Federation, it really kind of gives us our anchors to be able to kind of latch down during these tough times, during games when we're exhausted, to be able to kind of find the next level and to be able to succeed. Everyone around here is fighting for each other. It's like a family. And again, that is what's going to make this team great.
We will move on to Charles Bone from MLSsoccer.com.
Hey, Reggie, thanks for speaking with us today. To follow on some of the topics you've already mentioned, what is this, the concept of seniority seems like has been a tradition within this national team. Is that changing now that it's such a young group and you have so many guys who have so much experience at such a young age? I'm just wondering what that feels like from inside the squad.
Yeah, the concept of seniority is kind of non-existent within this squad. I think that's honestly a sign for the future because there's so many young guys on this team that it's just kind of what you look forward to that are playing for some of the biggest clubs in the world. You kind of have to respect both sides of it. You got, Tim Ream, who's been such a rock and solid foundation for the national team, and then you got someone like, Weston, who's 22, who's playing for Juventus. There's two different sides to a coin, and I think respect has to come on both sides, and I think that's something this team is learning as we continue to go forward. But everyone definitely has respect for each other. But we're obviously learning from the knowledge that players like Tim Ream have and that experience that they have to give us and kind of lead us, especially when times get tough, to kind of counteract that energy that Weston and Serginho and all those young guys bring. So it's kind of just a seesaw, but I think there's a good balance between the two.
Our last question for Reggie will go to Felix Boshin. Felix, first of all, could you pronounce your last name? I apologize if I didn't do it right.
No, Boshin is good. I appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Right. Hey, Reggie, thanks for taking the time and speaking with us today. I was curious if you could talk to maybe the atmosphere in the team right now. You've been a consistent figure really since the Gold Cup, but there's a lot of young faces in there. So maybe two parts. A, how is that off the pitch, maybe different versus other camps? And how well are you guys jiving on the pitch after just a few sessions together?
Yeah, I think we're meshing really well. Guys are finally getting the energy and matching the energy of each other, getting the coordination of each other. I think everything is coming together. People have to remember we've only been together for barely a week. For me, less than a week. I think it's tough to get everything, especially guys coming from all over the world, situated with tactics and everything within a week. So again, one thing I can say to the national team fans is be patient. We got guys with a lot of talent that we just have to figure out how to work as a team, and I think it's coming together definitely because we have a lot of talented individuals, obviously. But what's going to make this team great is if we play for each other, and that's something we're figuring out as we currently go from game to game and training to training. So I think it's going to be very impactful going forward. But one thing, Greg has really instilled in these young guys is seize the opportunity because you never know what can come from these opportunities. I was left off the Gold Cup roster. I wasn't really involved with the national team. And the next thing I know, I kind of joke with Tyler about it sometimes. Tyler Adams gets injured. I get my chance as the last man on the Gold Cup roster. And next thing I know, I'm starting the final against Mexico, earning my starting spot on the national team. It's stuff like that. It's small things that you always have to be prepared because, football comes at you fast and you're always going to have that opportunity. So, I really think it's important just to kind of seize that opportunity and be ready for the next moment.